Much as they have for the past 100 years, perfectly preserved reminders of a simpler, kinder way of life. Perhaps that's why so many people who move here never want to leave, even after they're dead. This was Georgetown, Colorado in 1895. This is Georgetown, Colorado in 1995. 100 years has done little to change the silver mining boomtown. Most of the buildings from the previous century are still around. And to hear locals talk, so are the people who lived here back then.
Georgetown is a very haunted community, so I just thought we have to coexist. These are like parallel universes or something like that. So I just thought, let's, live together. That's what people do up here with their houses, their homes, and everything. But this is just going beyond that.
In 1994, Bill Pentland and Becky Richardson traded their fast-track life in Hollywood's entertainment industry for the peace and quiet of Georgetown. They bought an old restaurant, named it the Full Circle Cafe, and began to restore it, stirring up the past in surprising ways.
When we first bought the cafe, what we did, we had to do a lot of remodeling and a lot of renovation. We had to go down into the basement, and it has a lot of really neat types of things down there. And we found all these receipts, newspapers, and obviously at that point we had realized, too, that this box had really not been touched for almost about 100 years.
Opening that box and using its contents to decorate the cafe seemed to be a paranormal trigger.
We found a lot of papers in the basement that had the writings of the people, their receipts, sat here for about 100 years with nothing happening, and once we brought up the vibrations or the essence or the actual touch of these people, these things just very quickly began to happen.
But it took a while for Bill and Becky to realize that their rummagings might be linked to strange happenings in the cafe.
Little subtle things started happening, just noises and just some things rattling and things like that.
We turn the TV off, it's on. If we turn the lights off, they're on.
I would be totaling out the calculator, trying to add up the daily registers and stuff, and right when I get to the end of the total, the whole thing would just clear out.
Anything that had to do with water was breaking down. Ice machines, sinks, toilets, pipes under the ground.
I mean, it happened night after night after night after night.
At first, everyone involved in the Full Circle Cafe put up with the seemingly playful haunting activity. But then the incidents took on a more frightening, even menacing tone.
I was by myself, and something came up from behind me and grabbed the bar stool and turned me around just like you would just turn around real fast, or something in your chair.
One night, Caleb Lopez was remarking on the striking resemblance between Becky and a woman in this photograph.
And the picture flew off the wall and hit the end of the table. And that kind of spooked all of us.
It also prompted Becky to wonder if her uncanny resemblance to the woman in the photo might explain the haunting in the cafe. She and Bill started researching their cafe's historic past.
In the 1890s, this particular establishment was a general store. And there were two brothers, a William and an Albert Shower, but there was also a third brother, Edward. But their energy is still here. And God, I hope I haven't opened up a big can of worms with these guys.
No sooner had Bill and Becky learned about the Shower brothers than an apparition of Edward Shower appeared to Becky in the cafe.
And I look in the kitchen, and there is one of the Shower brothers standing at the sink, and because it's the guy in the picture, it's the guy with the mustache. And all I could do was think of, I got to get out, I've got to get out. And I was so freaked out of seeing something that I know was from 1895, and is in my cafe.
Soon after Becky's encounter, waitress Erin Sharecki saw the ghostly image of another brother.
What I had seen was the image of a man, and it was a perfect image. He had on a long-sleeve dark shirt, and his apron was dark, so to speak.
The ghost that Erin described was a perfect match for John Shower, even though Erin had not seen this photograph. Sightings asked renowned psychic investigator Peter James to come to the Full Circle Cafe to uncover the reason behind the escalating haunting activity. He was told nothing about the history of the cafe or the Shower brothers. In fact, Peter was not even told that his destination was Georgetown until the day he left. Yet his first psychic impressions were on target.
My preliminary sense of what is within the structure, not necessarily here as we speak, is a male entity and I pick up the name of Edward.
When Peter was in here last night, that was the first thing he walked in and said, "Who is Edward?" And it just kind of gave us big-time chills.
I get a sense that there's an energy about someone named John as well.
The oldest brother was John. John was a baker.
Vibrationally, he's talking about some kind of a fish, and I don't know what that means, but there's a fish, of all things, involved here.
The Fish block, Charles Fish, the builder, was a banker here in Georgetown, amongst other things. He built the building that we see there now, all around 1890 or 1891.
I will say that Edward does come down here. These vibrations, like the walls, the beams reek of his energy because he's also angry.
It was in the attic that Peter felt Edward's angry presence most strongly.
Hello? Communicate with me. Look. Hello? See? Oh, he's angry. Don't be angry with me. This is a volatile entity, by the way. Don't play games with me. I'm not afraid of you. He said, I didn't kill him. I didn't kill him, and he's angry. Don't be angry at me. This entity is capable of making sound, of talking.
Moments later, Peter's contention that the spirit could speak seemed to be proven correct.
Edward! Speak to me now! Listen.
It is important to note that 12 people witnessed these events. There are no windows in the attic. It was well past midnight. The Full Circle Cafe was closed, and Peter had never seen the picture that Becky was about to show him.
This one.
Oh.
This is the one I saw. This is the one that I saw upstairs. I got goosebumps myself.
That's what I saw in the kitchen.
This is Edward.
We've gone to great pains to keep him in the dark. It's like I have to bite my tongue. He knew nothing.
Peter believes that by confronting the spirit of Edward Shower, he has released his haunting energy.
If they want Edward to move on, I think this will happen simply by the fact that the history is now being brought to light. And I feel that Edward is now aware of the fact that we know that he was falsely accused of this murder. And I think that will help him move on.
While the sightings team was in Georgetown, we heard from many other residents who had also experienced haunting reminders of the town's past. We'll introduce you to more of the ghosts of Georgetown on an upcoming program. For Most Haunted Place in America, Sightings nominates the historic mining town of Georgetown, Colorado. In our ongoing investigation there, historical research is backing up the psychic impressions of paranormal investigator Peter James. When a sightings team last visited historic Georgetown, Colorado, psychic investigator Peter James encountered an entity he called Edward here in the attic of Bill Pentland and Becky Richardson's Full Circle Cafe.
Edward, that's your name, Edward?
John was out of
Bill and Becky were sure that Peter had made contact with the former proprietor of their establishment, a man named Edward Shower. But that wasn't the last name Peter was getting.
And I'm Edward B, is all I get so far. His last name has 2 syllables, boom, boom. And it sounds like ridge, or bridge, or idge.
It seemed that Peter was on the wrong track. Then, a historical researcher provided Sightings with a 130-year-old newspaper account from Georgetown that indicated that there was more than one Edward associated with the Full Circle Cafe. In addition to Shower, there was a notorious hot-headed prospector who frequented the place, a man whose name had an eerie ring, Edward Bainbridge.
There's a John M, the letter M, that I get that apparently was perhaps a friend of his
or some place where he went frequently with John or he hung out with John. He's asking me for some fish. Fish? A can?
On April 24th, 1867, Edward Bainbridge sat down at John Mickle's saloon for a game of poker. The stakes? A can of smoked oysters.
What he's saying essentially is that he was accused of something that he didn't do, and there was a man whose name was Jim or James, and he said James was an SOB, and he made me angry.
Edward Bainbridge lost the poker game to a man named James Martin. Bainbridge was outraged and shot Martin in the head.
But there's something around his neck, and he also talks about being around some rocks. I don't know what that means, but he's around some rocks.
An angry crowd of Georgetown vigilantes apprehended Bainbridge and took him to a spot called the Point of Rocks, where he was hanged by the neck.
And he said, I didn't kill him. I didn't kill him, and he's angry. Don't be angry at me.
Amazingly, James Martin, the man presumed to have been murdered by Edward Bainbridge, survived the shooting.
Doc has my body, and he put it on display, and he's calling him an SOB. This is a volatile entity, by the way.
As a final injustice, Bainbridge's body was dug up and sold to a doctor in nearby Central City, where his skeleton was kept on display.
What I get is the reason why he's here is because he wants us to know that he was accused of something that either didn't happen or he didn't do it. And until that's made public, he's not going to rest.
Peter James claims that he had no knowledge of local history before his trip to Georgetown.